Attack on America. The day after, the smoke begins to clear. A breakthrough. NBC's terrorism task force with new information on who did this and why. The president's press secretary says the White House and Air Force One were missed targets. A day of desperate rescues, profound sadness, and moments of astonishing kindness.
Attack on America. This is a special edition of NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. Tonight, another major section of New York City's World Trade Center is in danger of collapsing as the United States is marshaling forces for a war against terrorism. President Bush tonight visiting the Pentagon at the same time. The president and his advisors are working urgently to line up an international political alliance. They're also sending a very stern message to Afghanistan. They're organizing military options, and most important, they're trying to determine who was responsible, find them, and punish them. Here in New York, the sad task of the search for the survivors and the victims goes on and on. You're looking live at the scene tonight. This is ground zero, what's left of the mighty twin towers of the World Trade Center, and another section may collapse. It's now a heavy construction zone. More than 100 pieces of major construction equipment on the scene, mostly removing large pieces of debris so the rescuers can pick through the rubble hand by hand. Amid the devastation, a few small miracles. 7 people have been pulled out alive so far. Rescue attempts continuing, still no guess on the death toll, but remember, it's estimated that between 10 and 20,000 people were in the building when those twin towers came down. A temporary morgue has been set up in what was once a Brooks Brothers store. It is taking in remains, but grim news, mostly body parts at this point. The commander-in-chief has gone across the Potomac tonight to the Pentagon, where he is greeting the military personnel who have been working around the clock at the Pentagon, which was another target in this terrorist war. The death toll there now has been revised. Originally, Arlington County fire officials said it could be as many as 800. Today, Defense Secretary Don Rumsfeld said it will be lower than that, although he could not give us a specific number. We do believe, however, that it's more in the range of 100 to 150 than the 800 number. That's a small piece of good news, but the loss of more than 100 American military personnel, too great, obviously, as well. We're going to begin tonight with the fast-moving developments on who did this. We have organized an NBC News journalistic terrorism task force, and we have extensive new information tonight. We'll begin with NBC's Justice Department correspondent Pete Williams with the latest for us. Pete?
Good evening, Tom. With the smoke still clearing from the terrorist targets in New York and Washington, Justice Department officials tonight say they have what they call a tremendous number of leads from a worldwide investigation that's now moving surprisingly quickly, partly because of solid detective work and partly because of lucky breaks. Federal agents respond immediately. More than 4,000 FBI special agents and 3,000 support staff already on the case, sweeping the nation for evidence from fragments at the scene of the attacks to any documentary proof of what the suspected terrorists were up to. Between 3 and 6 per plane, authorities now say.
The United States Attorney's Office's terrorism units and the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Forces are obtaining the passenger manifests, rental car receipts, telephone logs, videotape from parking garages, and pay telephone videotape records at all scenes for review and appropriate follow-up interviews.
Scrutiny of those passenger lists leads the FBI to this flight school in Florida, where officials say they believe at least 2 of the terrorists received pilot training during the past year. A man who worked at the flight school says he allowed both of them, who described themselves as Germans, to briefly live with him and his wife.
While they were here, I know that they had used this address initially, and I know that because I would get insurance renewals for them addressed to them at this address for that call.
In Boston, agents swarm area hotels where registration records match suspicious names from passenger lists of the hijacked planes, detaining at least 3 people for further questioning, holding them now on immigration charges. And in a hugely helpful break, the FBI impounds a car found at the airport after a witness says it was driven by 2 Arabic men. In it, authorities say they discover airplane technical documents. Federal agents also stop an Amtrak train in Rhode Island today, part of a frantic nationwide effort, the FBI says, to make certain no other conspirators remain at large where they could mount further attacks.
Our first effort is to identify any associates in the United States who might be related to the hijackers and to remove those associates, investigate, and arrest, given the evidence, those individuals, and to remove any threat to the air system in the future.
Among other searches today, agents descend upon this mailbox rental office in New Jersey, where some of the suspected terrorists may have received their mail. And tonight, law enforcement officials tell NBC News they're preparing still more search warrants based on evidence churned up by this rapidly expanding investigation. One official tonight says expect to see even more federal raids in the next few days, Tom.
All right, thanks very much, NBC's Pete Williams tonight. There was a great deal of activity today. Federal law enforcement officials were swarming all over the city of Boston. It was Logan Airport, obviously, that was the origin of 2 of the flights that were used in the hijacking, the 2 flights that crashed into the World Trade Center. One of our investigative reporters, Dateline's Chris Hansen, is in Boston tonight. There were reports of arrests earlier today, but no arrest in Boston, I gather, at the end of the day.
Well, Tom, they're calling them detainments, if you will, not technically arrests. The people are being held on what you could call immigration charges here. It has been a fast and furious day here in Boston as investigators are learning that very likely there were many more people involved in this terrorist plot than anyone first imagined. First off today, we started to get information about pretty much what was a raid at the Copley Plaza Westin Hotel here in Boston. 3 people were detained after investigators found out that they were using a credit card that appeared to be the same credit card that some of the hijackers used to buy their tickets. After that, there was another police action at a suburban Boston hotel. They confiscated a car, and inside the car there were technical documents having to do with the Boeing 767, which of course is the kind of plane, the 2 planes that were hijacked out of here early yesterday morning. There was also that train that was stopped between Boston and Providence, and a man was taken off the train. He's being questioned. Police are telling us tonight that initially he's being held under suspicion of having a weapon. Here at the airport today, there were some 300 state troopers on duty here, keeping a watch on things. They're going through this airport with a fine-tooth comb. Every inch of it is being inspected with bomb-sniffing dogs. Every plane here is being inspected. And we can take a look here at some of what was going on earlier today here at the airport. As I said, a lot of activity, still not quite sure here in Boston when Logan Airport is going to reopen. It could still be days. Today they did start the removal of some 9,000 cars here at the airport that were abandoned when the airport was evacuated. A number of leads are being followed up on here, including that suspicious car that police were led to by a man who said he had an altercation with 2 Arabic men early yesterday morning. He told investigators where the car was parked. They went there and they found technical aviation manuals having to do with flying commercial planes written in Arabic. The police and investigators linked that car to 2 men, brothers, one of whom is an experienced pilot, and they believe those 2 were among the hijackers, Tom.
Dateline's Chris Hansen. Obviously, the Boston area is ripe with possible evidence that will be helpful to federal investigators. A number of people are being detained. Technically, they have not been arrested. They can be held on immigration charges or suspicion of immigration charges as they try to find out from them what connection they may have or what knowledge they may have had of these hijackings from Logan Airport yesterday. Now let's go to NBC's Kerry Sanders, who's in Coral Springs, Florida tonight with more on the connection in that state with two of the pilots who apparently were trained and certified there. Kerry?
Well, Tom, we've moved down now to the FBI headquarters here in North Miami because a material witness has been flown into this area now and brought to the headquarters here. We don't have much more information on who was brought here or why. Meantime, the FBI task force that is set up here looked over the passenger manifest, and when they looked at it, some counter-terrorist agents saw a name there, and it jumped right off the page at him, Muhammad Atta. They linked him to a suspected car bombing or bus bombing in Israel in 1986. 33-year-old Muhammad Atta on the flight manifest of one of the suicide flights. One of those who the FBI suspects took the controls of the hijacked jet. Where did he learn to fly? Venice, Florida. Visited today by FBI agents who carted away at least 8 boxes of records. NBC News has learned those records show Atta and his cousin, Marwan al-Shahi, spent 7 months in training here. Employees at the flight school say money never seemed to be an issue for them. The cost, $25,000 each to get a commercial flight rating. The plane Atta and his cousin flew to get their FAA certification, this Piper Seneca. The FAA's designated pilot examiner says he barely remembers either man from their 3 flight tests late last year. Dave Whitman says while neither could fully command a 757 or 767 with their flight experience, they could take control in the air and easily direct a jet like that into a target.
As far as just flying the airplane, such as driving it around the sky, it's not that much different.
Were Atta and his cousin legally in this country? That's something the FBI is now tracing. But flight school owner Rudy Deckers says he was suspicious.
We don't think that these people came in a normal way, not that we can know that. But the normal way is that they get a permit to enter. And a few of them are in reviews in the last couple of years, and that's okay by us. These people came at our door and wanted to get training done. And, you know, what can you do? I mean, for us, it's a customer.
The FBI today visiting an apartment in Coral Springs, Florida, where Atta once lived.
Can you tell us if you found anything?
No, ma'am, no comments today.
At the same time, in Hamburg, Germany, another address used by Atta. Police there leaving with evidence. By all accounts, in Germany and in Florida, Atta and his cousin kept to themselves, except for last Thursday, at this bar in Hollywood, Florida. It's believed both men came in, drank heavily, and then refused to pay the bill. FBI agents showing Atta's passport photo to bar staff and listening to the manager recount the argument.
If there's an issue where you can't pay your bill or something, just tell me, okay? Let's stop, you know, let's cut to the chase here. And the guy got like very, very offended, and he said to me, he said, "Oh, I can pay my bill. I'm an airline pilot." And I was like, "Okay." And that's what I told the FBI agents, and they were like, "Oh, really?" And
Now, FBI agents are serving search warrants in various locations around Florida. They served a search warrant a short time ago in Vero Beach, Florida. And now, about a half hour ago, agents, along with local police, moved in on an apartment complex in Hollywood, Florida, where they are also serving yet another search warrant. At this point, no idea what they're finding at these locations, but the agents are boxing up what they do find, and they're bringing it back here to their command center, which is under extreme heavy guard. Tom?
NBC's Kerry Sanders, thanks very much. His detective work has taken him back and forth across the state of Florida today, but now we're going to get a recap of the rest of the day's developments. Another unprecedented, indeed a surreal day for this country. NBC's David Bloom joins me again tonight. David?
Well, Tom, I am in Lower Manhattan. It is a very tense situation here tonight. Over the past hour or so, hundreds of relief workers have been streaming up this street, Church Street, moving away from the World Trade Center, which is about 6 blocks to the south. Why? Because at this hour, authorities fear that 2 buildings, including the large black building that you see there, the 50-story One Liberty Plaza, and another building directly in front of it, which you cannot see, the Millennium Plaza, could be in imminent danger of collapsing. Until the rescue workers were evacuated, this was the situation here in Lower Manhattan and throughout the nation tonight. As the day wears on, dump trucks and heavy equipment haul tons of debris from the toppled Twin Towers. Emotions grow taut. Exhausted New York City firefighters scouring the World Trade Center wreckage for victims, including hundreds of their colleagues missing, presumed dead.